Andrea Yates. What's the problem? I just need him to come. Is your husband there? No. Well, what's the problem? Well, I need him to come. I need to know why we're coming, ma'am. Is he there standing next to you? Or she? Or me? Are you having disturbance? Are you ill or what? Yes, I'm ill. You need an ambulance? No, I need a police officer.
We're going to bring you some breaking news now out of the Clear Lake area. Houston police say they were called to check out a welfare
scam.
scam.
Not been charged just yet. We do know that within the last couple of hours, it happened in the house you see behind me here. The father is a NASA engineer. Police say while he was at work, his wife drowned their 5 children.
You loved your children?
Yes, not in the right way, no.
Precious children, one struggling mother. What Andrea Yates did on June 20th, 2001, inside her home stunned the nation. The then 36-year-old mother called 911 herself to report she had drowned her children. The years that followed were no less dramatic. An overturned conviction based on false testimony and a second trial that sent Andrea to a state hospital where she remains today. All of it shined a light on mental illness and exposed Andrea's demons that led to her children's deaths.
We get a call around 9:30, around about 9:30, 9:35, somewhere around there. A nice clear day and nice day, and didn't expect that at all, of course, but you never do.
On the morning of June 20th, 2001,
she had breakfast on the table. They were eating cereal.
36-year-old Andrea Yates waited for her husband to leave for work, fed her children breakfast.
I checked and the milk was cold.
And then one by one took them to the bathroom and drowned them.
I forgot how the call came in. I think it may have just came in as a, respond to the sick call, or I don't think it came in as I know it didn't come in as a drowning.
John Del Bosque.
I'm the paramedic who pronounced them.
A Houston firefighter, paramedic for 36 years, responded.
There was a police officer that may have beaten me there maybe about 5 minutes before I did. And as he walks out, first thing he says to me is, she killed all of them. And when he said that, I had no idea. I thought maybe mom, dad, husband, family, no idea what he meant by that. So I walked in, and that's when I found the 4 kids in the bedroom, all lined up. And she had covered them. She didn't cover their heads, just up to their neck, and you can see all their faces. And they look like, to me, they look like little porcelain dolls.
4 children, 5-year-old John, 3-year-old Paul, 2-year-old Luke, and 6-month-old Mary, who was cradled in John's arm, all dead. Del Bosque thought they had been poisoned. 7-year-old Noah was still in the bathroom.
As I was walking out, I saw a trail of water. And when I saw the trail of water, I kind of followed it, and it led into the bathroom. And that's where I saw the oldest child. I believe that was Noah, if I can remember correctly. And he was still in the bathtub, face down. He was just bobbing in the water. That's when I realized she drowned him. So yeah, that was that day. Seeing 5, deceased kids, babies, was pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult to see that. So yeah, it's probably, obviously it was my worst call, I think. Yeah.
It happened in
For
the
most
house
of us,
you
it
see
is
behind me.
Soon media and more police descended on the 900 block of Beachcomber in Clear Lake, Texas, southeast of Houston.
Killed her children.
The children's father, Rusty Yates, rushed home. Del Bosque remembers his brief conversation with the woman whose actions would dominate headlines.
She was on the couch, sitting on the couch, and I believe that officer had her in handcuffs, and she was just sitting on the couch, just kind of glaring at the wall, real like in a gaze, or haze, just like a little zombie, just had no clue what she did, because she had no tears or anything like that. And we made small talk. She had a bus out back, and I asked her, well, I really didn't ask her, I go, man, there's a bus out back. And she said, yeah, we used to live in it.
Andrea and Rusty, a NASA engineer, were married in 1993. Children soon followed. They wanted a big family. Rusty shared many home videos like these online as a memorial to his children. The family moved from the converted bus to this modest home after Luke was born. Andrea homeschooled them. Her mental state was deteriorating. In 1999, she had a mental breakdown, overdosed, and was hospitalized, the first of 4 hospitalizations in 2 years. One doctor advised against having more children. Then Mary came in late 2000.
I said, "Is anyone hurt?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Who?" And she said, "The children."
Rusty quickly faced the cameras. A day after he lost all of his children, he clutched a family photo and voiced his support for Andrea.
She loved those kids.
Read up as much as I possibly could about women's mental health.
George Parnham had been hired as her attorney hours earlier, a referral from a lawyer who knew her family.
I just knew what it was about, so I hesitated to call him back. In the back of my mind, knowing that this would be a mind-changing event in my legal life and personal life. But I did, and I was right. And the next morning at 7:30, Andrea's mother, her 2 brothers, came into my office, hired me, and 20 years later, here we are talking about her.
Parnham was not only her attorney, but a staunch advocate, and now like family.
She's like my daughter. Yep.
He educated himself about women's mental health and postpartum depression and went on the interview circuit.
It was important for me to try to level the playing field.
He remembers his first interaction with Rusty. It was at the Harris County Jail. Parnham met Andrea that same day.
The depths of her illness was overwhelming to me. I remember so well looking and at her, and she had no pupils in her eyes. She didn't know why she needed a lawyer. She believed that Satan lived within her, and she, for the benefit of mankind, wanted to be executed so that the ruler, as it is so stated in the Bible, and realistically it's the governor of Texas, right, could execute Satan. And therefore she would be able to save the world from Satan.
In interviews with police, Andrea said she killed her children because she was not a good mother. She told a county psychiatrist she wanted to save them from Satan.
Why would Satan want you to do something that saves the children?
The act itself.
Because the act would condemn you. Satan was interested in you and not the children?
There's no question but that, you know, Andrea's world at that time was her psychotic state. And when you're in a depths of psychosis, you make decisions based on that world that may otherwise not be an appropriate call.
A jury would eventually hear the case. Was Andrea Yates a murderer or just a very ill woman?
Either she knew right from wrong or she did not. And that's what we accomplished in the first trial, what we tried to do in the second trial.
Andrea Yates was unlike any defendant accused of such horrific crimes. She was first in her high school class, the captain of the swim team. She was a nurse, a mother. 8 days after their deaths, the Yates children were buried, 5 little coffins, a stunning sight.
With 5 hearses parked outside, mourners filled the Clear Lake Church of Christ to hear Rusty Yates talk about his children. Flowers draped the white caskets holding the bodies of Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and baby Mary. Rusty described in great detail each child's personality and leaned on his strong faith to help him through. He did not mention his wife, Andrea Yates, who remained in jail on 24-hour suicide watch. Legal strategies were already being formed.
I think the jury, looking at Andrea, can't imagine how a sane mother would do what Andrea did. And so I think going in, there was a level basis for insanity.
Andrea had attempted suicide twice, was admitted to psychiatric hospitals, and treated for postpartum depression and psychosis before the drownings. Early on, her attorney, George Parnham, revealed he was considering an insanity defense. A judge issued a gag order. There were questions about whether the state would seek the death penalty. The following February, her case went to trial.
Our strategy basically was to focus the jury's attention on the law, both the common sense definitions and how they correlated with the scientific definitions, and to make it a case that was simply, did she know right from wrong?
That was all the state had to prove. Experts agreed that Andrea, with a history of mental illness, suffered from postpartum depression and schizophrenia, but defense and prosecution witnesses disagreed about how severe her illness was or whether it kept her from knowing right from wrong.
We, the jury,
in March, she was convicted. The state wanted death. The jury sentenced her to life in prison. After the verdict, her family said Rusty shared some responsibility. She had little help at home and was in a downward spiral, they said. Testimony revealed Andrea's doctor discontinued the strong antipsychotic medication Haldol just 16 days before she killed her children.
Obviously very disappointed.
Rusty always said he worked hard to get his wife the medical help she needed. He was never charged. He filed for divorce in 2004.
We all stand behind Andrea.
And I'm Tom Cook.
In 2005, more than 2 years into Andrea's life sentence, a bombshell.
Said to be shocked but happy today when she heard that her conviction had been overturned.
We took it all the way up.
An appeals court overturned Andrea's capital murder convictions and ordered a new trial. Joe Ownby, now retired and living in Kentucky, was the lead prosecutor.
Park Dietz was our expert on the first case, and he was very well known nationally. And he testified that one of the law and order programs had run a program which basically paralleled the situation we were in. And we also had a tidbit of information which we was involved in a case that Andrea Yates habitually watched Law and Order. Park Dietz testified that there had been an episode that kind of paralleled the events that we were trying, and that turned out not to be correct. It was a surprise to me when the testimony came, surprising for one reason, because I had not asked the question and did not expect it to be part of either the direct or the cross-examination. Turned out to be false. Sometime later, during the appeal, the case was overturned because of the incorrect statement.
Thank goodness Dr. Dietz did what he did.
Dietz said he made a mistake, confusing two different Law and Order episodes, and the appeals court also found he did not, quote, intentionally lie. The next year, Andrea entered a not guilty by reason of insanity plea. Judge Belinda Hill granted her a $200,000 bond, but only if she checked herself into Rusk State Hospital in East Texas. George Parnham took a quick detour to his law partner, Wendell Odom's ranch.
I get Andrea and she goes to the fence. And the cows are there, right? Wendell's cows. And she pats one on the head. And we get back in the car. And I take her to Rusk. A lot of people don't know that until now.
In June 2006, Andrea was back in Houston for a second trial. Now 42, she often stared blankly during testimony. Her family was always in attendance. Rusty, now her ex-husband, was there too. A month later, and after 13 hours of deliberations, a jury found that Andrea was insane when she drowned her children and acquitted her of capital murder.
Mental health, I think, has been addressed. That's so important.
Andrea was ordered to a state mental hospital in Kerrville on the edge of the Texas Hill Country, has been home for more than a decade.
She's where she wants to be. She's where she needs to be. And, I mean, hypothetically, where would she go? What would she do?
Here at Kerrville State Hospital, Andrea attends group therapy and one-on-one counseling. She has a job. There are no bars or barbed wire. A green line shows patients the boundaries. Parnham still talks to her on the phone and sometimes visits. In not guilty by reason of insanity, the court has jurisdiction for as long as her sentence would have been. In Andrea's case, that's the rest of her life. She comes up for review every year. Parnham says she has waived it every single time.
I think she's afraid and concerned about being in a community. Certainly, her notoriety and the issues that she brings will cause people to have harshness toward her.
He says she's gotten death threats. Even 20 years later, they've never talked about that day.
Why go there? You know, there's no reason for that.
At 80 years old, George Parnham is still practicing law.
This is a case that will always be in my frontal lobe.
He has supported the Yates Children Memorial Fund to educate people on women's mental health. Andrea's case has brought awareness to mental illness.
This is such a major part of my legal existence. Not only her case, but the aftermath of cases like hers. And I just want juries to understand the mindset, right? That's critical.
Rusty Yates did not respond to our request for an interview. He still lives in the Houston area. He has one child from a second marriage and is now divorced. Andrea turned 57 in July 2021. She has spent almost a third of her life institutionalized. George Parnham says that she is happy. If they had survived, all of the couple's children would have been in their 20s.
Parnham still visits the children's graves and often gets asked what he hopes for Andrea. His answer is simple: whatever makes her comfortable. 20 years later, he remembers her first words to him.
She leaned forward and she said, whispered something, and I had to lean forward to hear what she said. And she said, please don't leave me alone.
We, the jury, find
and
Andrea
it's,
P. Yates
and I haven't.
Not guilty by reason of insanity.